Hey folks, thanks for taking some time to check out my 8.25 Arms Warrior guide. So, not a lot of change since Arms Warrior has rolled out in the 8.2 and 8.15 spec. Um, Still not bad for single target. Overall, I'm still recommending you're going to go with Fury. Alternatively, if you want to dig into the gory details of this, we're going to go through the Raid build, the Mythic Plus build, look at the Azurite traits, look at the essences that we're going to recommend, and even the rotation as well as the stats. So stay tuned. This will be a pretty full overview of Arms Warriors. So if you're not familiar, Skull Splitter is the way to go. If you're less familiar, Sudden Death is all right. If you just want one less button that you want to be responsible to click, but from a pure DPS standpoint, Skull Splitter is going to be the go-to in both rating and Mythic Plus. Now, for rating, double time is the way to go. Really just increases your mobility, gives you that second jump, and knocks the cooldown a bit. When it comes to tier 3, Massacre or Fever of Battle are applicable. Massacre I like for single target. Really have an execute available at 35% health is alright. Fever of Battle is pretty fantastic. I really like it in Mythic Plus. It gives you that ability to tag a whole bunch of different mobs and really increase your AoE. Tier 4, Defensive Stance is the go-to. Tier 5, a little bit different. Warbreaker is my preference. Really trying to incorporate it into the rotation, but I've seen a few builds with collateral damage as well. Really kind of complements your rage return if you can tag a second target with sweeping strikes. You just have to ensure that that's applicable for your build. Level 90, In for the Kill is the go-to. It really stacks well with Warbreaker. So Warbreaker increasing your haste by 10% or 20%, depending on the target's health. Yeah, that's a not even a thought. And finally, for tier 7, it's Anger Management. That's that's a fantastic way to roll. Really stacks well, all these with the Warbreaker build. Alternatively, if that's not your jam, what do you mean I can't tag that target? If that's not your jam, then what you can go to for a Mythic Plus build, again, go Skull Splitter. Alternatively, this time, go Stormbolt. Stormbolt is materially better, having a second stun. Look at all of these enrage procs. This is crazy. So we can go with Massacre. I like Fever of Battle. I like it because I know how often I'm going to use Whirlwind as a filler. It's it's a real easy sell for me personally. But yeah, it kind of comes down to what your preference is individually. Defensive stance is still the tier 4 choice. Again, collateral damage, not really useful for a Mythic Plus build. Warbreaker is in the conversation just because it does have such a large area of effect, but alternatively, Cleave starts to get in as part of the conversation as well. And being able to inflict deep wounds across multiple opponents makes a huge difference. After that, tier 90 In for the kill, or tier 6 In for the kill, still the same, and anger management still the same there. So makes it a little bit attractive to keep your Warbreaker build going in at least half the right direction. All right, so that's kind of the talents discussion, folks. It's really pretty applicable. Your big choices that you're going to have is really around double time or Stormbolt. Again, Stormbolt not that useful in raids, and then Massacre or Fever of Battle. I'm going to maintain Warbreaker, but pretty applicable from everyone, and kind of consistent with some of the buffs that we had seen through, we'll call it the 8.1 to 8.5 nerf that rolled through. All right, when it comes to Azurite traits, there's quite a few, and there's a few different ways we can go from a recommendation standpoint. For arms, it actually should be pretty straightforward. It really depends on the situation. For rating, you want to go single target most of the time, so go 3 Test of Might, or get as many as you can. For Mythic Plus, you often want to go with a burst AoE. In that case, you're going to try to get like a Lord of War or Gathering Storms. Um, you could also have a sustained AoE setup for Mythic Plus, which wouldn't really hurt your single target damage much compared to burst AoE traits that I just mentioned, but it's going to require mobs to live longer for like 20 plus seconds to really benefit of the Test of Might. An inner trait, if you can pick it up, come across Overwhelming Power, that's pretty useful. Really save your Titan Residuum. I think that hopefully that with 8.25 rolling, we haven't seen a lot communicated yet, but I'm hopeful that we're going to see some new and improved talent here shortly. Maybe that'll make a big difference for what we're able to purchase. As far as Azurite traits go, I kind of mentioned it. Test of Might, Undulating Tides, and Blightborn Infusion are probably the top three that you can get your hands on. Tier 2, again, Overwhelming Power is a third higher than the next highest trait, which is Unstable Flames. As far as Azurite essences go, you want to get your hands on that Memory of Lucid Dreams. Go get familiar with the Nagitar storyline. Alternatively, the second best, but still a fair bit lower, is Condensed Life Force, but you're only going to get that from the Eternal Palace raid. So Blizzard wants you to keep up and they want you to push endgame talent. So hopefully you've been doing that, and if you haven't, right now is a really good time as we advance into what Blizzard's advertising is the end of the storyline here, or at least the end of the conflict between the Alliance and the Horde. We'll see what that means. Trinkets, you really want to pick up Ashvane's Razor Coral or Ashara's Font of Power. Both Eternal Palace trinket drops, so spend some time to try to do a little bit of farming and pick that up. From a stat priority standpoint, really straightforward. You want to get Haste, followed by Crit, and then Mastery and Verse are about equal. The component here that you want to be relatively aware of is actually that all these secondary stats, there's lots of recommendations out there with them. Make sure you are putting in the effort to sim and understand what it is that you're actually kind of facing and signing yourself up for. Alternatively, if you want to figure out what your min max is, if you really want to maximize your damage, you're going to go with Undead on the Horde side or a Lightforged Draenei for an Arms Warrior on the Alliance side. Interesting to see those Lightforged finally being used for something. I couldn't figure out what it was. All right, folks, that's kind of the breakdown of the Azurite traits, the essences. Drop it down in the comments. Let me know what you like from the talents. Do they work? Am I out to lunch with the trinkets? Keep me in the loop. Now, we're going to jump quickly into rotation. And as far as priority lists go, I'm going to try to break this down really quick. For any of your openers, you want to start off with Charge, followed up by Skull Splitter, Overpower, and then Warbreaker. And then you want to jump to kind of your regular rotation. And depending if you're single target or multi-target, that'll be a little bit different. Use Skull Splitter when you have less than 60 rage. That's one of the big ones. If you can get that rolling, after that, go to Warbreaker. If you get a sudden death proc or any kind of major proc, next you're going to jump into Execute if it's available. If not, right here, Blade Storm if you have less than 50 rage, and you get a Test of Might proc. Or if Colossus smashes up if you didn't go with Warbreaker. Again, Charge if it's available. If not, you're going to go back to a little bit more of a standard single target approach here. So you're going to go back to a Mortal Strike with an Overpower, another Mortal Strike, and then hit him again with another Charge or a Slam Whirlwind, depending on what's available. I always prefer the Whirlwind. Really, when you're in the Execute phase, this is when you have to be smart. Execute replaces all of your Mortal Strike, Slam, and Whirlwind. So you're really trying to execute every second or third shot that you get to sneak in. It's really just reliant on its cooldown. The only exception to that is if you get a Crushing Assault. And if you get that Crushing Assault proc from the Nazarite trait, you have to make sure you use it right away. For multi-target with arms, it's really just a common situation that you're going to continue to go back to Warbreaker like so, and then a little bit of Blade Storm once it's available. So, and then really when the mobs start getting low, that's when you go to Sweeping Strikes like you just seen me do, and then get Cleave and Execute rolling. Really, it's going to depend on the fight length, but the things you want to remember: charge in, get your rage and your DPS going. Have a swim timer add-on or a weak aura. I usually roll with one. You can see it here. I try to keep all my cooldowns and have a highlight as to what kind of duration is left for me. Makes it really easy for me to figure out where I have to dedicate my energy next. And really just make sure when your arms, you're close to the hitbox, but as far away as you can get away with. It allows you to play a little bit of a sneaky game here where I'm slowly backing up away from the hitbox. And once I get far enough away, I can charge back in. You've got to be a little bit more speedy than what I just did, but that's the whole premise of it. Keep your distance from their hitbox as much as possible. Minimize your time away and then bring the heat. All right, folks, that was the arms review, kind of how I started it. I really prefer Fury for the second half, for really the last 3 new patch contents. It's the way to go if you're a warrior. Um, Plays a lot faster. There's a few less abilities if you're a real button clicker, then it might seem a little boring to you. But really, still a ton of game playing enjoyment to be had there. So take some time to enjoy that or familiarize yourself with Fury is my big suggestion. Alternatively, let me know what I missed for ARMS. Drop it down in the comments, and if you made it this far, hit subscribe. It keeps me really motivated to keep kicking out these vids. All right, folks, thanks for watching. See ya.